As many, the chair recognizes the honorable member for Central Grand Bahama.
Pleasant good afternoon, Madam Deputy Speaker and parliamentary colleagues, and all those watching from across the length and breadth of the Bahamas. Madam Speaker, my apologies, welcome back. Special greeting also go to the great people of Central Grand Bahama, who I am eternally grateful and proud to represent in this honored house. I want to send a shout out to my wife Heather, and daughters Jasmine and Imari, to my community of Waterkey, and to my family that's living across the length and breadth of the United States, especially South Carolina and Tampa and Fort Lauderdale. I'm always proud to advise this honorable house that the Central Grand Bahama Farmers Market remains strong, and backyard farming in Grand Bahama has become an initiative near and dear to our hearts. Congratulations to the board that organizes the world-famous Central Grand Bahama Farmers Market Festival that was such a hit again just this past weekend. Madam Speaker, the market has grown by leaps and bounds over the past few years, and vendors' numbers are climbing. We are continuing to invite the entire Bahamas to join these efforts to get into farming, grow more, and help to limit our reliance on the importation of 90% of what we consume. I want to offer special thanks to the member from Marco City for coming out this weekend and supporting and inspiring the vendors, and of course buying a lot of treats for the children. So I believe those parents had a lot of movement on Saturday night, considering all those children were on sugar high, I should say. I want to say a special thank you to the Special Projects Committee headed by Ms. Faye Williams for a top-class job done by organizing and hosting of the first annual Easter egg extravaganza. And it was held at the same time and place as the world-famous farmers market. So we had it all in one place, bigger crowd. And a great time was had by all in attendance, including the parents, and most importantly, our little darlings. Madam Speaker, allow me I noticed Mr. Carlos Reed, I wanted to congratulate him on the success of his grandson and the wonderful job that he did at the Carifta Games. And that caused me to segue into a statement mentioned by the member for Fort Charlotte when he mentioned a great engineer, Dr. Norris Stubbs. I know him from another arena, from the world of track and field, because Dr. Norris Stubbs, along with the great Tommy Robinson, Dr. B.J. Nottish, and Kevin Johnson, held that unbreakable record for 25 years. So he's known as a fine sprinter. And that record was set at the Olympic Games in Mexico. And some 25 years later, the record was shattered by one Renwood Wells, Andrew Tynes, Bernard Young, and a little fellow from Waterkey named Iram Lewis. That was called the Unbreakable Record, but we got it done. I want to say happy birthday greetings to my sister Sarah, also today, and she shares her birthday with our National Deputy Chair, Heather Hunt. So I'm hoping that they will all enjoy this day to the fullest. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to matters, Madam Speaker, that concerns the residents of Central Grand Bahama and Grand Bahama as a whole. And just allow me a bit to speak to some infrastructural concerns that I have in Grand Bahama. As we are rapidly approaching the hurricane season, the city of Freeport, they're hosting a hurricane preparedness training seminar for this upcoming weekend in preparation for the season. In preparation for last year's hurricane season, Central Grand Bahama, also in partnership with the Church of Scientology and the Township of Pinders Point, we held a similar course, and we used the same NGOs, and we certified some 40 individuals in CPR and hurricane preparedness. So again, I was made to understand that this weekend they'll be allowed or be able to take a refresher course, because of course it is extremely important that we prepare ourselves, because every time hurricane season, we almost like that song that Madonna sing, like a touch for the very first time. Go through it for the first time over and over as if it never happened before.
You missed something
Yes, sir. I'll allow you to say the word when you make your presentation. Madam Speaker, the fishing hole road is a concern. And I said it earlier, and I'm saying it again. The culverts at the fishing hole roads need to be installed to mitigate against flooding of that road and the Queens Cove area. Once the upper causeway is completed, I believe we should move post haste to get those recommended culverts in. And I'm going to keep hammering that point home. We need to get those culverts in. I just want to remind the Minister of Works, understand that there are two major concerns, Minister. I raised it with you before, with the seawall at Smith's Point. Two major concerns. At the western area, and I know this is Eastern Bahama area, but at the time I was a parliamentary secretary in the Ministry of Works, I was proud to oversee those projects. On the western end of that seawall or that defense wall, there are numerous large casuarina trees growing, and they're growing in abundance. Not only will they contribute to beach erosion and overgrown foliage in short order, but the root system, they have a very strong root system that can destabilize that defense wall. You know, that wall was in place during the devastating Hurricane Dorian, and it protected the community of Smiths Point. So again, that very important wall, I believe that we need to get in there, Minister, as soon as possible, and have those casuarina trees removed. The other concern is the top railing at the top of the wall. It looks good from the roadside, nice and smooth. You see the nice gray paint on it. But I took it, made it my business to look over. And on the seaside, the railing is corroding, showing sign of rust. So if the team hasn't done so already, they need to assess that, go there, brush it down, and paint it to ensure that the life cycle of that rail and the wall is extended. So those two things, very important, Minister. Take the trees down, as well as protect and fix, repair the wall. Now, Madam Speaker, I'll get into some things that may not be too comfortable for all, but I have to say it anyway. And that is that I really question the priority of this New Day government. And I'll say why. April was declared as Child Protection Month. But the question is, what have we really done in this place during the month of April to move the needle, in favor of child protection in this house? What have we done in here? What did we discuss that speaks to April being Child Protection Month? I don't even remember us even giving it lip service. In recent time, a young child was found wandering at 4:30 in the morning, picked up at the police station. 3 or 4:30 a.m., and I'll say a.m. in the morning for amplification, for emphasis. But we're not talking about that. We're speaking about law reform. Last week we came in here and we passed a resolution to make sailing as a national sport, recognize sailing. And it's important, I'm not taking anything away from that. But was that our priority? Did we have to do that during National Child Protection Month, when we could have come in here and speak to issues that affect our children? We've heard of many heinous crimes over the past few weeks and months. Many of them. Fathers, stepfathers, older siblings, damaging these children. But we need to talk about law reform instead of law enforcement and protecting our children during the month of April. Sometime last week, it was reported that a 14-year-old was murdered. Police report still ongoing. But are we really talking about that? No. And this is National Child Protection Month. We're talking about law reform as opposed to law enforcement. I question our priority. and it's something I think we should take seriously. We're in the last quarter of this very important month. What have we done as parliamentarians, those who have been elected, to put legislation in place to protect our children during this month? Why wasn't that our focus? Not that what we're doing is not important, but I don't think it should be given priority, particularly now. You know, the member for West Grand Bahama last week during the wrap-up, he lauded the member for Garden Hills, and we all agreed. Wonderful, wonderful accomplishment during the Crifter Games. We all on board with that. However, going into the last quarter of this month, one of the push that I made as minister was the push for the implementation or the updating and the implementation of the National Youth Policy. It didn't start with me. When I checked the archives, as far back as Dr. Daniel Johnson, or even before him, he was an advocate, he pushed. Even before him, but he pushed to have the National Youth Policy implemented. During my time, we invested money into having it updated to ensure that we empower, that we protect our children, our youth, those who've been marginalized, the weaker vessels. Some $1 million was allocated for that purpose. When I look at this year's budget, not $1 million, not $500,000, not a quarter, not $100,000, $70,000 was allocated for the implementation of the National Youth Policy. How can that work? And I believe the minister, he wants more money. We need to give him more money. He's doing a good job in sports. And he needs the money also to ensure that this policy is updated and implemented to give our youth teeth, empower them, protect our children, protect our women. Colleagues, the time to do it is now, not tomorrow. We are the legislators. We are the one that has been mandated to protect our children. The time to do it now, not tomorrow. And this brings me to a story that was told of a young boy that got lost in an African village. You know, the mother came to the chief nearing the end of the day, and she said, "Chief, my son wandered off this morning into the sawgrass. By now he should have been home, but he's not yet returned. I'm concerned. Chief, I'm really concerned about him. Can you please assemble the warriors and go and search for my child?" The chief acquiesced. He called all the warriors in. "This little boy is missing. I want you to go out and search for this child." The brave warriors, as instructed by the chief, went out to search for this child. Unfortunately, no one found the child. When they got back to the village that night, the chief said, "You know what? We're not going to give up. We're going to change our strategy. Tomorrow we're going to search for this child. But what we're going to do different this time, we're going to hold hands. We're going to form a chain, and we'll walk together. We're going to comb all of the sawgrass, not missing any detail. We'll do this until we find that child that is lost." And true to form, the following morning, they held hands, they went through the sawgrass, and the news was bittersweet. They found the child, but the child had died. The child was exposed to the elements overnight, couldn't survive. They brought the child back to the village and presented the child to his mother. As they presented the child to his mother cried out in agony, "Oh, if only we had held hands yesterday, my child would have been alive." I'm saying to all of us, today is the day that we should hold hands during this National Youth Month. We need to protect our children from the elements of sexual abuse. Right, the element of physical abuse, National Youth, this is National Child Protection Month. The element of physical abuse. the element of mental abuse, the element of abandonment, the element of drugs and gang-related activities, so that we will not have to hear that mother, that grandmother, that aunt, that uncle crying, saying, oh Lord, why didn't we hold hands yesterday? We have been mandated to do just that. Madam Speaker, as I wrap up, I will speak little on the law reform bill, because my colleague initially covered most of what this side have to say. And I'm not a lawyer by profession, and I learned one thing to do is stay in my lane. So in my review of this document, I just came across two items that I believe that perhaps may be oversights or typos. And if you have the bill with you, I'll direct you to page number 11 of the bill. It might be a typo. Page 11 and 12, Article 18.2. Number 1, it says, a revised edition may be placed in loose leaf or bound printed form and should bear. We come down to item 18.2, a revised edition may be placed in electronic format or may be made available electronically through the medium of a national information structure and should bear. And then you go into a bear, the word bear is used again. So you have bear. When you look at 2B, again the word bear is repeated. So I believe the first word bear should be taken out. The structure and shall bear on every page, A, and B, and shall bear, because I was told by the lawyers that a word make a big difference. So as far as I can see, this bear should not be there. And the last thing that I discovered, again, it might be a typo, on 18, on page 12, 18.5, copies of the revised edition may be offered to the public in printed or electronic form at a cost to be determined by the Cabinet Office. I could be off. Is it the Cabinet Office or is it the Cabinet? I don't understand. I mean, is it the Cabinet or the Cabinet Office? Can the Cabinet Office make a decision? Or because I look at the interpretation at the front and I don't see a description of Cabinet Office.
And your concern
Is it the Cabinet or the Cabinet Office, the power, the authority? I was told by the lawyers, by the legal mind, that a word make a big difference. So I'm seeing the word office following cabinet. So is it a cabinet or is the term Cabinet Office? Please check it. Because those are the only things from my layman perspective that I discovered with this, with respect to typos or the misplacement of words. So again, as I conclude today,
just before you,
sure. For the articles?
not just that last one with office.
Yeah, it says
What number?
20, okay, 18.5, 18.5 and 20B. Okay, thank you. As I conclude today, once again, I just want us to focus, Madam Speaker and colleagues, on our little ones, on our darlings, our youth, our women. And let us hold hands in unity today to protect them against all the elements that kill their child, the natural elements. But we have other elements that are affecting our youth, that are affecting the most vulnerable in our society. And I want us to move today to hold hands so that very little harm or no harm will come to them. Colleagues, my final word to you is simply this: let our tomorrow be today. Central Grand Bahama.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As many? The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Garden Hills.
I just want to clarify something for the member, to let him know that he stated correctly that Mr. Donnie Johnson would have started the youth policy, and I want him to know the pot is still on the stove. And before we celebrate our 50th anniversary, that will be in this parliament. All right? you know, a lot of work was done, a lot of drafting, but what needs to pass that doesn't, you know, it's just 4 pieces of legislation, but what needs to get that passed, the work has been done. And so the budget that you may see now, even though it was cut prior to us coming in office, it's not necessary all at once to get the legislation passed for it. So I bet you're sure. Should you be around, you will witness.
Thank you very much, Minister. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And it is good to speak to history because one of the things that I did when I first was appointed as minister, I had a conclave with all those who preceded me, including the leader, and I went back to numero uno, Mr. Kendall Norwich. And he came there in his wheelchair, his son brought him there, and he had a back and forth. In fact, he took the show. And again, I had dialogue with him. What areas were you challenged? What were your successes? What were your dreams? What didn't you get done? What can I do differently? And I'm glad that you're following through. And let's make sure that at the end of the day, the youth sport and culture ministry, it has the talent, but we just need the funding. We just need the money to get things done. All right.
Thank you, honorable members. As many?